everyone, this is Module 5. Today in this video we are talking about modes. Okay, so what are modes? Like, what are they? Okay, well, modes are actually very old scales. Okay, so they're scales from a long time ago, something that the Greeks used. Later on it was used to create medieval music. They used modes to do that, and then later on in the 20th century, a lot of composers used modes. There was like a resurgence in this style to create music. It was kind of like a new thing, a little bit of a retro thing. So modes are rather important, and they can sort of give us a little bit more insight on how harmony works. Okay, so have you ever played a mode before? Well, chances are, if you played a major scale or if you played a minor scale, well, guess what? You played a mode. Okay, you actually have done it before. And modes are the easiest things to discover. Okay, they're super easy. You don't even have to be a pianist or a trained musician to play a mode on the piano. It's almost like the chromatic scale. Like, anybody can play a chromatic scale. Well, anybody can play a mode, all right? And I'm going to show you how easy it is to learn about modes. Okay, it's actually very easy. It gets a little trickier when we sort of do modes in different keys. Okay, so you have to pay attention kind of how the mode works in the beginning, so that this way you can transfer that knowledge sort of when we move the first note of the mode around. Okay, the first note of the scale. Okay, why don't we come over here to the piano. Let's take a really good look at some of these different kinds of modes. Okay, so here we are at the keyboard, so let's see if we can find where the modes are. So, super easy to find some modes, okay? First mode, we're going to start on C, and here is the first mode. Alright, so that's the Ionian mode. But wait a second, you're probably saying this mode sounds oddly familiar. And that's because the Ionian mode is a different way to say C major. So C major and C Ionian are at the exact same scale. Alright, so that's going to make things so easy, because we know major C major and we know C Ionian. So if we play all the white notes from C to C, that gives us C major. It also gives us C Ionian. Okay, now what if we played from D to D all the white notes? Well, this gives us our next mode. So think D for Dorian. So from D to D is Dorian. Alright? Now, you might say, well, this kind of, if I go like this, isn't this a D minor scale? No, this is not a D minor scale. D minor has a B flat. You know, the relative major is F, relative minor is D minor. So D minor has a B flat. D Dorian does not. So that's the difference. Okay, so that's where we know that D Dorian is a little bit altered from D minor, and it has to do with this sixth. So D Dorian has a raised sixth. Now we need to remember that, because if we were to start Dorian on a different note, well, we could think, okay, well, it's a minor scale, but don't forget to raise the sixth. That's the difference between D Dorian and D minor. But anyway, if you wanted to just play a D Dorian and you forget what Dorian is, just start on D, play from D to D all the white notes, and there you go. Alright, you can even keep track of where the half steps and the whole steps are. Okay? Now, E to E is also another mode. So from E to E is Phrygian. The way I remember this is that the first two notes are a half step. This is a half step right here, and that gives me the chills. Ooh, it's frigid. It gives me the feel. Oh, the feels. Okay, yes, that's a great way to remember it. Phrygian. Okay, so E to E is Phrygian. Now you might say, I can make a minor chord off of this. Shouldn't this be a minor? Why is this not a minor scale? Well, a minor scale doesn't have a half step. It doesn't start with a half step. So this has some alterations from E Phrygian to E Dorian. Okay, I'm sorry, from E Phrygian to E minor. So there is a difference between the two. All right, obviously the flat second is a really big one. Okay, so pay attention to how we're changing these scales from a regular major or minor to a mode. Okay, but if you, like I said, you want to find it, just play from E to E Phrygian. What about F to F? Well, that's another mode. Let's hear it. So F to F is Lydian, okay? I don't know how you can remember that, but just F to F is Lydian. Why is this not F major? F major has a B flat in it, all right? This doesn't, so a raised fourth. Lydian has a raised fourth. That's the difference. The next one is G to G. You play G to G, that's another mode. This mode, from G to G, is known as Mixolydian. Why is this not G major? Well, it has to do, G major has an F sharp, all right? This scale does not have an F sharp, all right? So the seventh is flatted. All right, so G to G is Mixolydian. So if I were to start this, for instance, on C, I could play a C major scale. I just have to make sure that I flat the seventh. That would be a Mixolydian starting on C. But if you just want a really quick Mixolydian, you're near a keyboard, just play G to G, boom, you got a Mixolydian. What about A to A? So A to A, all the white notes, is known as Aeolian. Okay, now Aeolian should look familiar or sound familiar. If you're thinking that it sounds like A minor or A natural minor, you're 100% correct. Aeolian, or A, is the same as A natural minor. They're exactly the same. So no difference there, okay? There is another mode from B to B, which is known as Locrian, but I am not going to sort of go there, all right? So I figure from the modes that start on C, D, E, F, G, and A are pretty good for us. I mean, we can stop there, okay? So, by the way, Mixolydian, remember Mixolydian, G to G? If I start my Mixolydian on C, remember it has to have a flat seventh. So that's Mixolydian, but it's starting on C rather on G. So if it starts on C, I got to make sure that it looks exactly or have the same intervals than when I have my Mixolydian starting on G. So that is the modes. If you have an opportunity, if you're near a keyboard, definitely take the time to play through these different modes and get familiar with them. Now that we're getting more familiar with these modes, let's see if we can identify these modes. So before we can identify them, let's categorize them. Now, a lot of musicians like to put these modes into two types of categories. So we have the major modes, which resemble more major scales, and we have the minor modes, which resemble more minor scales. Now, the major modes are Ionian, Lydian, and Mixolydian. The minor modes are Dorian, Phrygian, and Aeolian. So that means that also that, for instance, if I take a major scale, I just have to make a few alterations, and then I'm automatically in one of these other modes. Okay, so let's start with major modes. Now, Ionian, as we said before, is exactly like C major. So we don't have to make any alterations, right? That's exactly like C major. However, Lydian, we take a major scale, and then we have to make sure that we take the fourth scale degree and we raise it, or we sharp it. With Mixolydian, we have to make sure that we lower or flat the seventh scale degree. With minor modes, it's pretty much the same thing. So with Dorian, it's very similar to a minor mode. You just have to change or raise the sixth scale degree. Once you sharp that, then it becomes Dorian mode. Phrygian, you lower the second scale degree, and Aeolian is exactly like the natural minor. Okay, so what do modes look like on the score? So, just like we did with a major scale and all the different minor scales or minor keys, we have to sort of identify or figure out how we're going to identify the mode based on what we see in the score. All right, so this is White Room by Cream. Let's listen to it. Okay, so by the way, even though I'm playing these on the piano for you, definitely go back, go on YouTube, listen to the actual White Room by Cream, and I think you'll also get a better picture of what I'm talking about. So, based on what I just played, all right, I mean, I take a look at that key signature, and it definitely feels more D minor rather than F major. So here's a D minor chord. Okay, so this melody definitely sounds more like it could be in D minor. The key signature tells me that, so why is this not in D minor? Well, I can see that we have a B natural here. Now, let's just assume that the melody repeats. We can't see it from this example, but the melody repeats, or that this just occurs multiple times throughout the score. So if that's true, we would have to explain that B natural for some reason. I'd be like, why is that B natural occurring? And what is it doing to the melody? Well, it's actually raising the sixth, all right? Which leaves us with all white notes. It cancels out the key signature. So if that happens, well then we're probably not in D minor anymore. D to D, all white notes, well that definitely means we are in D Dorian. Now even though this is Dorian, just like from D to D that we played on the piano before, it doesn't necessarily have to be D Dorian. It could be Dorian on any key. It could be F sharp Dorian, G Dorian. It just means that it resembles a minor scale with a raised sixth. Let's listen to White Room again. Okay, here's another favorite, Wherever I May Roam by Metallica. Okay, so let's listen to it. Okay, so let's check out that key signature. I don't think it's in G major. I definitely think it sounds more like E minor. So here's an E minor chord. Okay, I can almost play that in the left hand while I play the melody in the right hand. So, if that's true, how do I explain these reoccurring F naturals? These reoccurring F naturals cancel out the key signature because the key signature has an F sharp, and here I have all these F naturals. Okay, so what does that do to my melody? Well, if that's true, what's happening is now I am switching to a mode. I'm switching to not E minor. I'm now in E Phrygian. Okay, so coincidentally, this is also E to E, all white notes, which of course, as we said before, is Phrygian. But this could also be Phrygian in any melody, starting in any note. It could be G Phrygian or A Phrygian or C Phrygian. But we have E Phrygian here. Let's listen to it one last time. Yeah, rock out. Okay, so here's a really good helpful hint. We're going to use the circle of fifths to help figure out the modes. Okay, so if you have trouble remembering them, remembering the alterations, it's a lot. So the circle of fifths can definitely help us. Okay, now in order for this to work though, you have to memorize which modes are major modes or minor modes. So go ahead, memorize that. the 3 major modes and the 3 minor modes, and this will help you with this helpful hint. Okay, so let's take a random scale. So for example, let's take E flat. Now E flat, we know, is, if we take E flat major, it's the same as Ionian, so that's the same. All right, so we don't have to mess with that. But if we move clockwise 1 key signature, and we use that key signature for an E flat scale, this gives us Lydian mode. All right, so that's a nice little trick to figure out which notes are supposed to be flat, right, or which notes we're supposed to use. Start on E flat, make sure that you have a B flat and an E flat, and then you are using Lydian, then you're in Lydian mode. If you go counterclockwise and you add another flat, so 4 flats, and you start on E flat, then this is Mixolydian mode. So E flat to E flat, and make sure that you have 4 flats instead of 3, that gives you Mixolydian. So those are the major modes. Now if we want minor modes, let's take a random minor mode. For example, let's take F sharp minor, and we see that the key signature has 3 sharps. So automatically F sharp natural minor is Aeolian mode, so you don't have to do anything for that. Now if we move clockwise on the circle of fifths, this gives us Dorian mode. So we use this key signature, but you start on F sharp, this gives us Dorian mode. If you move counterclockwise once and you take away a sharp, well, this gives you Phrygian mode. So F sharp to F sharp with only 2 sharps in the key signature will give you Phrygian mode. Here's a piece by the late great Michael Jackson called Billie Jean. Let's listen to it one more time. Okay, so we have to try and figure out what mode is being used here. And yes, there is a mode happening here. It's not just a minor key. All right, so first, let's see if you can figure it out. Pause the video. When you get the answer, unpause. Okay, did you figure it out? All right. First things first, you want to take a look at that key signature, and you see that we have 3 sharps, and the relative minor to a major, which goes with those 3 sharps, is F sharp minor. Okay. Now, but we know that that's not the end of the story, because this is a video on modes and we can't just stop there. Plus, you do see that reoccurring D sharp here, circled here in green. It happens in the piano part throughout the entire time we hear this D sharp happening. So, if this is true, what kind of mode is it? Well, here is a F sharp minor scale with a D sharp. Okay, which should help us figure it out. But remember in the helpful hints that we also used the circle of fifths. So here is the circle of fifths with F sharp. If we add a D sharp to the key signature, that's going clockwise on the circle of fifths, and that leads us to Dorian. So this is actually in F sharp Dorian mode. Makes me want to moonwalk.